Hello, and welcome to StoryFellas, a podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
And if you've never been here before, this is a podcast where we try to kind of improvise a story outline in about an hour. We use prompts and old ideas that don't have any meat on them and try to make something of substance from them. And by the end, we title it and give you a line from the movie. And I think that's it. That's the spiel.
You did it,
and
dude.
we're goofballs.
You did it. And
a lot of times we peel
we
into absurd
comedy.
Or comedy.
The steering wheel is stuck, and it just wants to go whatever the comedy direction is.
Yes,
but we got to make it interesting for us too. You know, you have to understand this. You know,
yeah, we got to make it funny and cool for us.
We've done a ton of really serious episodes that we just end up crying the whole time. And you don't want to watch that, so we don't release those.
We just, most of it's just crying. Two dudes crying. That's our other podcast. But yeah, I'm excited to tell a story. We're doing a morning episode. For those who don't know, we've alternated between late night episodes and morning episodes because life's busy, and we're back on that morning train lately. So if our voices sound deeper and cooler than normal, that might be why.
That's exactly why. And we're drinking coffee in it, and it's just it's an overall dreary. You know, it's probably November when this is going to air. So you're out here just walking around whenever you listen to podcasts. You know, listening to StoryFellas.
In the evenings, we sometimes have cocktails. Maybe we got to bring the cocktail energy to the morning.
Ooh, yeah. I should have a cocktail in the morning. I should just be drinking no matter what, so people can't tell what kind of episode it is. I like that.
Yeah, you got to do it for the show, man. Do it for the show.
We record 3 or 4 times a week, you know? So we are just, I got to tell my doctor, you know, that's how much you've changed my schedule. How many times are you
so much, man. Well, before we dive into it, how have you been, man? You doing all right?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm trying to think about anything that's really that new or special. Work is doing its thing. And I'm excited for the holidays. I'm excited. My girls love Halloween. We've got the perfectly situated little kid approved and, you know, my conscience approved holiday decorations, which is cats and pumpkins. So cats and pumpkins, that's what our house is about. We don't got no scary monsters or anything. So yeah, they love it. They walk the neighborhood like 5 times a day, going to see all the different decorations and stuff. And so I come home and I have crazy stories about skeletons and whatever. What about you, man?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about the holidays as well. I feel like it's going to be a busy lead up to the holidays, you know, just coming up the next several weeks. In a couple weeks, me and Zach get to see each other face to face. We're having a little get together. So
doing a StoryFellas conference.
Excited about that.
Buy your tickets.
You're like, what if there was like a man, but he was part bug?
That's kind of cool, actually. It's called The Fly.
It is cool. But this is The Fly 2?
No, there already was a Fly 2, but whatever.
His enemy is a giant... His enemy is a humanoid fly swatter.
Oh, not a spider. Okay. We started, folks.
Yeah.
The story has started.
Do you say how... Yeah, this is the show you signed up for. Now we're about to jump in. How do you say fly swatter?
Fly swatter?
Okay, we're saying it the same way. I feel like technically it's like a fly swatter, like you swatting at a fly. Like that's where the word comes from. But I think I've always pronounced it, which is probably the same, but flice, like it's almost like FLICE. Fly swatter is like how I say it. I don't ever say fly swatter.
Drinking water, yum.
It's I guess it's the same pronunciation, but my brain just doesn't piece it together.
Yeah,
I think it probably was a while where I was like, oh, like a fly swatter. I'm so dumb.
You are. No. Fly swatters are a great invention. When you have like, this is just a quick little note. This summer we had tons of flies like get in. Like if you left the door open, they were waiting to get in the house. They were at the door and they would just pour in by the hundreds, thousands maybe, these flies. And so we got a fly swatter and it's very satisfying. It's great.
Yeah, nothing works quite like it. And they know, because if there's a fly and I leave the room to grab it, I come back, it's hidden. It knows that I've got it.
Oh yeah. You got to get into like the Zen state of like letting the fly. You know, it's the Jackie Chan catching it or whoever, Mr. Miyagi catches it. I'm mixing all of my Karate Kids up. Yeah, catches it with the chopsticks. But anyway.
Well, let's roll for a prompt, Zach. If you can roll me a 10-sided die.
10-sided. All right, let's rock and roll a 10-sided die. Let's see.
Someday I'm just like, roll me a 1-sided die for me. I have one option.
Roll the 1. All right, here we go. We rolled an 8.
An 8. All right. All right. This is kind of fun. I feel like we've told.
What did I win?
He won. He did it. The prompt is: a ship comes across another in the middle of the night. No one is on the other ship. Something has happened.
Okay.
So we have basically an abandoned ship, which we could go full on pirate mode with it. That's interesting. I also think it's interesting if you find a yacht that's completely empty, just in the middle of the ocean.
Modern day.
Because that's a lot of people to disappear. But so that's the prompt. And then let's see. We can either do a random requirement or a genre. We could try a genre if you wanted to.
Sure.
All right, let's roll for a genre. Give me another 10-sided die.
I rolled a 10.
Rolled a 10. Let me see. We are... Okay, let's do... It says art house film, which I think kind of can fit. I think A24-esque indie level film. Willem Dafoe's inside, basically.
Yeah. Willem Dafoe is in this movie. That's basically... And I wish we had a better Willem Dafoe impression.
We've got like a 30% Willem Dafoe.
It is very underdeveloped, 30%.
Yeah. I'm a bit of, it's not that good. I'm a bit of a scientist myself.
You know,
it's like very, very airy and very kind of dry. But all right, we have this boat. I think indie sounds good. I kind of like that, unless you want an extra requirement. But I think
we're good. We can rock and roll on this.
Cool.
I've been, and this kind of dovetails nicely with something I've been playing with in my mind. I do really like desert island movies. Mm-hmm. They're just cool. Swiss Army Man, Castaway. Those are both like amazing, fun movies. Mm-hmm. And Castaway's not that fun. Like when he knocks out his tooth, I'm not laughing. You know?
You're like, it's so funny.
He got an abscess. Oh, he's an ice skate. No, I'm not that messed up. But that movie is great. It's great thematic storytelling in that. Anyway, Robert Zemeckis is best, probably. Maybe that's a controversial thing to say. Anyway. But I thought as soon as you said it's abandoned, I'm like, oh, people think that the ship that is finding the empty ship is in a better state. You know, it's like a presupposition that, a police ship or whatever.
So our protagonist ship is, their ship has trouble, so they're trying to abandon ship to this ship for safety. That's what you're saying?
Yes, sort of. I'm saying that there's a guy who made his way we pick up with Tom Hanks, basically, off the island. So he's on his raft or whatever, and he's like, there's a whole little story we can tell in the beginning, just like really quickly, which could be fun. And then he's like finally pushed, 3 years off the island, and he's like, bearded and everything. Wilson! And he finds the ship liner thing, but that ship is abandoned.
Yes. Okay, so it's just, are you thinking it's just one dude?
Yeah.
Finds the ship?
Yeah.
I think that's cool. I think he would die on a raft after 3 years.
No, he's not on a raft for 3 years. He was on an island. Okay. And then we just showed that he would die on a raft.
He got off.
Years for sure.
Okay, so we've got a full on Robin Williams Jumanji. What year is it kind of dude? Like looking dude, scraggly dude.
Yes.
Gets on... Yeah, some big old yacht-esque thing. I think this is modern day kind of.
Yeah, you want it to be like Jeff Bezos's yacht. That was a big thing a couple of years ago. Basically, it's a super yacht. Like Jeff Bezos bought a couple of years ago. It's like $1 billion amazing yacht. But yeah, he's like a loincloth wearing guy was maybe a shipping container dude that fell overboard or something, like really simple. He's just kind of a blue collar guy that has made this amazing trek. And it's that like, we're going to put our protagonist in a tree and throw rocks at him. That's like a writer proverb. So it's like he gets out of the frying pan, which is being stuck on an island for 3 years, and into the fire, which is what has taken over this ship.
Yes. And you're talking, just so the audience is clear, because I've seen videos, the super yacht, the $1 billion worth of yacht, is basically a small city on a boat.
It could be,
right?
Like it can function on its own. The big thing with like billionaire dudes they've explored a lot is, what is it called? Seasteading, I think is the term, where you live out on the ocean where there's no laws. And so you can do whatever you want. Like you're in international waters where nobody owns them. So you can just kill people. That's what they say anyway. They say.
Yeah.
But that's kind of cool. You have like this Jumanji guy and he's just like, dude, this is scary. I'm the most normal guy here. Which, okay. So he finds the abandoned yacht. There's nobody on it. That's one thing. Or he could find it and it's like, these aren't the people that should rescue him.
Yeah. So I think there's a few different directions we could take this, because originally I thought you were pitching the whole thing's we're assuming it's empty, but maybe there's something lurking in the shadows, be that people, dangerous people, or some sort of creature, monsters. Yeah. The other route is that there's this uncanny feeling that he gets on board and people are there, but there's this weird, he says, I've been trapped for three years. And there's this like lady server there. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Why don't you sit down and we'll take care of you in just a moment? And no one seems to be reacting properly. Like, it's like almost like there's this hive mindy weird thing going on. I almost think that's, in the time we have here, might be harder to tell. I think that is interesting, but I also feel like it's just as interesting to have either a small portion of people. I also get the Menu vibes from this, where we have like a small, basically cult-esque, and I know we tell cult stories a lot, but a small group of people that have a different mission than the rest, and maybe that's why it's so sparse on this boat, and they're basically hunting this guy. I don't know, which direction do you like to go? Do you want to go more that
I know the
weird, creepy, like people are
thing.
there, but because that's also creepy, like that many people are in on this situation. He's talking to everybody and no one really knows and can give him a straight answer on anything.
I think I kind of like the interpersonal, like it's actually just more psychological than it is like outright, like we are one being kind of horror thing. It's either that or there's nobody on the boat and the boat itself is like an AI type thing. And he's like trying to get it to go back to humanity. Come to find out he's like the last person. Humanity's been wiped out. And so there's just like, that's what's in like the back of my mind lurking. I do like the idea that he gets rescued by a murder boat. So again, these rich people that just have people they save, or not save, but they take out, opposite of save actually, that they take out and just have them killed or whatever. Kind of like The Hunt. It was a movie that came out a couple of years ago. They just like to indulge, which again, this is kind of an interesting, I'm trying to build a thematic undercarriage to this thing where it's like, okay, so he's representative of these poor people that have nothing, and he's like holding on for dear life on the only thing, kind of the broader survival of humanity kind of thing, holding on for dear life on this flotation device, this sophisticated ship. And then you have the people on the ship who've like convinced themselves that reality is some other thing, and he has to contend with them and they're all kind of fighting over it. That's kind of interesting. Again, I'm leaning into that art house genre requirement, but
yeah. And I think I like the idea of it being a bit sparse, and we can decide, are there still hyper rich people on the boat that will hunt him, or did the last hunt go poorly and there's more savages on the boat, basically? And that's what he has to deal with. I like the idea that clearly he'd be a little weak from living on an island, but if he lived there for a long time and learned to hunt and take care of himself,
be that weak. Yeah.
he probably has an advantage over if they just grabbed like a poor person from the city and was like, run for your life. Like,
Yeah.
he's been contesting with animals and hunting, and he's more equipped. He's kind of Tarzan on the boat in Disney's Tarzan, where it's not the jungle, but he still is pretty capable in ways that normal people wouldn't be.
He looked into the abyss, and he learned to fight in the darkness or whatever. What does Robin Williams say in Jumanji, where he's like talking about, I've seen things that would, whatever. Just like you only imagine the world of Jumanji through what he's experienced, and it's like, whoa, that's pretty crazy. And maybe he even has contended with sea monsters and other type things where you could go more fantastic like that, where it's like, you have no idea what I've seen. I do get a little bit of Cloverfield Lane, or what was it called? Is that Clover? It's the Cloverfield
where
universe?
she's trapped. Yeah, she's trapped in the bunker, which for those who have not seen it, it's this girl, and she gets run off the road, and she wakes up in a bunker, the doomsday bunker, with this guy, John Goodman, who says, oh, it's the end of the world out there, and I saved you. And then it's this, which I like, because that's a little bit like Passengers as well. It's this story of I'm in this confined space, and I don't actually know who to trust or what's going on. Because that's the story of Cloverfield Lane of, can I trust this guy? Is it really the end of the world, or am I being held here against my will and I don't know it? Which, I don't know if you saw that video essay about Passengers, which is Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence trapped on the spaceship, basically, which I get vibes of this, like this luxurious yacht that you're trapped on. That movie could have been benefited from more misdirect. Like from the beginning of the movie, you basically know what's happening. And there's a really cool video essay online where it says, oh, if you just hid one of the protagonist's stories a bit more, it would have been way more captivating, because those stories lend themselves to, I don't know, the audience doesn't know the full picture of what's going on, and we're trying to figure it out with the person. So I definitely think that's cool. Guy, let's name our Jumanji man.
Oh yeah,
Let's name
let's name him Robin.
Oh, I like it. Robin the Wild Man is what I'll call him.
Yep.
So, and I might even just pick. I think my mental picture is just going to be Wild Robin Williams from that one.
That's Jumanji, God tier movie. It's great.
Yeah,
the original one, not the one with The Rock.
Yeah, but that initial thing, he's on the boat, or I think a cool visual is the start of, we just see waves, and then we see this man who's this like disheveled man, long beard, pushing the raft out. Like we're starting with the end of Castaway, basically, and he's like out there, and then we kind of montage through. You get it. He's been trapped on this island for a really long time. I don't even think we need any exposition of that. And then he comes across like way in the distance, which would be so sad, because you see the super yacht forever away, and it would just be there. And then he's like, oh, and he's just paddling probably for days, if not like a week or two.
Maybe, or if it, it just is a long distance and he's paddling and he's so tired, and it is coming toward him too. And so he's there's this, how does he actually get onto the boat? It's not, they don't see him, So that's a little bit of a set piece there, where he eventually grabs onto the side of it and is like, his raft gets destroyed. And so this is it. It's like, if he doesn't get onto this thing, he's dead. We really make him earn that,
Part of me thinks that he would, like, the raft could be smashed, but if I were in his shoes and I found a boat, I would just let the raft drift away, like the second you grabbed onto the boat and started climbing up, because
totally,
it's clearly better than what you were dealing with. I almost pictured there's like a rope, like a sheet made of sheets, like hanging off the edge of the thing, or like a rope ladder, which is kind of ominous, because I think it'd be interesting if there was just like a rope made of sheets, which he's just so eager to get on the boat he doesn't question. But that is a weird thing of like, why is there a rope trying to get off the boat? And then he just gets up there and he's like full on Jumanji. He's like, hello, is anyone here? And just running around. And it's a really big place. And then we get that little ominous vibe of, okay, where is everybody? There's like multiple pools, and he's running around and no one's sitting at the pools. And I don't really know how we reveal and get into the next phase if he meets someone who's seemingly nice. I do like the idea you said of an AI ship that I feel like that could be cool if we go like slightly futuristic, where he can't find anyone, but then he finds this like big ball, and then it has like the little waveforms, like little red waveforms. When it talks, it's like, "Greetings, can I help you?" He's like, "Hello, is anyone here?" And it's like, "Hello, my name is blank. I am an AI programmed to help you find what you need to on the ship," or something like that. I don't know, because
titles and stuff are popping in my head.
Yeah, I think still having the hyper rich or some human threat is cool, but giving him some sort of robot to talk to that's kind of semi-neutral. Like the robot's not actively trying to kill him, but is also not helping him. He's like, "Can you take me to land?" It's like, unfortunately, we are not scheduled to land anytime soon. Just so he can get some exposition without, I don't know, being chased.
Yeah, I think it's just like an informational thing. Like he might touch a display that then pops on and is just like, whatever. And he's like, "Where are we headed?" And it gives him some gobbledygook answer, Like, we're not actually allowed to disclose. Like, part of the fun of being on Super Yacht is, not knowing the destination. And
it's a cool line is just like, where's this boat heading? And it says something weird like, it's heading, our final destination is enlightenment. It's just this idea that like it's the AIs drank the Kool-Aid of these people, even though it's not partaking in it. It is the purpose of this cruise is to open the minds of the passengers on board.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe he finds somebody in like a pod of some kind. I know that's very much like Passengers. But so if you back out a little bit and look at the ending, maybe being the world is actually ended, that this ship is really just designed, it's just a way for them to cryo sleep, like these rich people, without being affected by anything on land. And so he's accidentally stumbled upon it. Might be too much like Passengers a little bit. Like they're not going through hyperspace or anything. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I like that because I feel like the apocalypse thing, we have to tie together the apocalypse thing with the rich hunters. So, because if they were somewhat reasonable, which I don't think you're super reasonable if you're hunting people.
Maybe they're just cannibals.
If it's the end of rich cannibals, that kind of gets close to Howling Hill a little bit as well. A little bit.
Yeah, previous episode.
This is Howling Hill. This is Howling Hill 2. This is not Howling Hill 2. This is just a spinoff from Howling Hill.
It's in the universe. It's in the Howling Hill universe.
Dude, I kind of want to just make these guys werewolves because that on a giant boat sounds really cool. And this 100 guy having to defend himself.
That's true. And I mean, it's a really weird beginning where it's like we start with Robin Williams from Jumanji. And he gets off of his island and he's just like, "There are werewolves?" It just feels a little like you have to really earn it.
It's a little much, but you get what I'm saying. This feels like that spin-off after they've made a few sequels of a movie of just different characters dealing with the same thing. If for you who don't know, Howling Hill is a movie or a story we told about hyper-rich people who lock themselves in a warehouse because they turn werewolves, and these young, basically influencers who accidentally break in and get locked in with them, and they have to survive the night. I think the werewolf thing might be a little much. I think there's something, and maybe we can pull these strings a little bit, of pulling that Cloverfield Lane where there are some rich people still there, and they're kind of haggard too. Like, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're still polished, and it's the end of the world. The world ended while we were out here. We can't go back. There's no communication, and maybe that's like a little cryptic. Do we know that for sure? Do we not? Is that true? Can they count on that? But we're just out here. But we've got enough food and preserves to last
forever. I mean, the ship itself like has a thing that collects fish every once in a while, and maybe they grow. There's a botany room or whatever. In that way, it feels a little bit like what is it? The train movie. Man, wow. Bong Joon-ho, come on, Snowpiercer.
Oh, I was about to say Snowpiercer, but I was like, oh, he's right there. He's almost there.
But yeah, they get through the different compartments and stuff. And again, I do feel like there's a class theme here where it's like upper class and then like ultra lower class. Like this guy is literally just like, when is my next meal going to happen? And these people are like, what do I want to eat? It just has like two totally different things. I think the real twist is the world didn't end. It was just that these people were a part of a doomsday cult. And so that's basically maybe what the kind of psychological cloud that he's walking through is like, you know, what, wait a minute. Like can you just take me back? Like, just take me back. Like I'll contend for myself. I just want to see, you know, if my family's okay, whatever. And they're like, no, there's no going back. And he like has no idea where he is. That'd be so alien. That'd be so scary. You finally find people and they're not acting like normal people. You know, this is rescue. You did get rescued, and maybe they fight amongst themselves about like whether or not to keep him on the boat because they're like, he's polluting the plan. Like the plan was to repopulate, you know, and or to repopulate, you know, maybe they have like breeder families or something like that. I don't know. And he gets clumped in with some other people.
Part of me is wondering if, I want to solidify this. Are they hunters? Like, was the plan to hunt people from the start of this thing? Because only other fairly rich people, I think, would be on this yacht. Or I guess maybe the tickets aren't like impossible to get. But the idea of, was it always their intention, or did they genuinely think the world ended and they say, well, we can't go back. So, and there's not enough resources for all of us to be here. And that made the decision to purge members. I do want the hunters, the rich people themselves, to kind of do some of the dirty work, which makes me want them to be hunters. Because if they're not hunters, they would just have their security team take care of everybody, which is also fine. But I like the idea of them have this like animalistic instinct to pursue.
I think we need more definition in the thematic level, because that would help us define what's going on. I do think we have an animal, like man as animal theme here, where we have Robin has got on board, you know, and he has lived as an animal, and he's finally made it back to civilization, but civilization is more animalistic than the wild, than the natural world was to him. So I think that's a good contrast anyway. Man is more savage kind of thing. You know, man is the most dangerous animal. It's actually how that story opens, is a guy falls overboard on a ship and lands on an island, the most dangerous game. So Count Zarloff, come on, anybody a good Zodiac fan? Zodiac? My Zodiac heads, where are you? But yeah, it's kind of that in reverse. The guy gets off the island and then gets picked up, unfortunately, by a group of killers. But if they were killers, wouldn't they just kill him immediately? Like, why would they pretend for so long?
So here's my thought. Maybe they bring this. I like all these ideas. I'm just trying to thread them together so they make sense. We have a handful. We can determine the number of hyper rich people. Maybe it's like 5 to 10 or something. Yeah. And clearly they'd have wait staff, and some servants, I think. But I think the servants, there's not a ton of servants, and I think they are cult level loyal, like the menu. Like they are just following whatever they say. Like they don't really have this internal thing saying this is wrong.
Yeah.
So we've got a handful of people. They went out on this boat, and maybe they didn't fill the boat. They brought a hand select, again, pulling from the menu. We brought 20 people that we thought were worthy candidates who would come out here, and we hunted them. But then, during our hunt, we realized the world ended. Some reason they think the world ended, or their AI had said something. And so they didn't go back. So when Robin enters the boat, I think there's just a guy there, like eating hors d'oeuvres, and his servants like bringing him something. He's like, oh, thank goodness. And we are getting like little glimpses that clearly like the boat's empty.
There's something
Maybe
wrong,
there's like blood splattered somewhere. There's something wrong, but he finds
broken
someone.
Glass, you know, that kind of,
And basically the rich dude is like, oh, I didn't know you were still here. Who are you? You're not supposed to be here. He's like, can you help me? We're going here. And he's like, oh. And basically I'm not going to write the dialogue on the spot, but the vibe we're getting is the rich guy like very calmly goes and he calls someone. He's like, hey, there's one more on the boat. A bonus round. And then he like grabs his weapon. He's like, I'm going to give you guys a head start. It's been a long time since we've actually done this. We've been out here for a long time. And maybe he doesn't explain things, but then he's on the run. And then this is like the last final hunt. And maybe a potential title, The Last Hunt, because these rich guys...
Last, using the word last.
The last call. No, we don't have to do that. But you know what I mean? Like, they are excited because this is what they do, because they're warped and twisted. And to them, this might be, there's no one left. This is the last hunt we're going to get to do. So make it count. I'm going to give you a long head start. I think that kind of ties together a lot of things. And then the AI can be a bit more
ambivalent. I mean, she is just there to pass information to him and whatever.
Yeah, he realizes that if he's
quarters at some point, and the kind of progression.
Yes. Like the AI says something like he finds the control room or food storage or something like that. The AI is like, sorry, we need a handprint from one of the original members to grant access to this room. And then, potentially he has to cut off the hand of the guy to get into some of the rooms. Something like that. It's basically like a 5v1.
So basically Die Hard on a boat after the apocalypse.
Yeah, like I think that sounds interesting. So I think we've got... I kind of wanted to have like one more survivor, but I think they would know if there was a survivor if they brought just a few.
I think that's what makes it art house, is that you don't get like a total examination of somebody, like somebody else. Thematically, it would be good. Maybe somebody who's been really captured or has been really hurt, or maybe one of the rich people is a previous, survivor or whatever, and they're like, I fought my way to be here. They respect.
I'm wondering if he should convert one of the servers, or I like the idea of at some point he interacts with a cook or a server, and I like the idea that there's a rule that they say, hey, if they're fully 100% devoted to the rich guys, then they won't side with him.
Yeah.
But I also like there being a rule that, we're strictly prohibited from partaking in the game. Like we can't harm you. Like that, if we were caught harming you, like we would be the hunted one. Because I like that idea that he gets opportunities to talk with them, and there's no real fear of like the cook is not going to start trying to kill him. Because I think that would be a thing. Kill him,
but he would signal that he was there. He would say, "Hey, he's right over here." I think the way that it progresses is much more tense and suspenseful, where, first guy he finds, he's walking through the ship. Most of the ship is uninhabited. And it's big enough to where he can like walk around or whatever. But he finds some like big fat guy just eating, he's like wearing a robe, eating in his quarters or whatever. And he's like, oh, I thought we didn't have any more. Like, oh, this is just delightful. The game continues, blah, blah, blah. It's been like 6 months. Blah, 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 blah. And he's talking to him and he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, can you tell me where I'm at? Like, where are we going? And he's just like, I can't tell you where you're going. I know where I'm going. And then he like tries to kill him. He ends up, Robin kills the big fat guy. Nothing says wealth like fatness, like, opulence of some kind. But he's just like, sitting there in his throne room. And maybe even his servants don't like rush to his aid or anything. He's like, or maybe after they die, does that release a servant from his contract, basically? So then that person, that like girl that was serving the big fat guy, that could open up something. But the whole thing is to like, nobody comes to check on them or anything. Like he just pieces together with that. He's like, oh, this guy was going to kill me. Like this guy was crazy. I also like that he is spying on the rich people, and he sees them do weird things that just don't make sense to him. Again, the kind of mystery of it all. But he sees like another rich person there's like a ceremony that they do, a ritual that they do where the guy like grabs like something really heavy and just walks off the end of the ship. And he's like one of the rich people. Like he's not a hunted person. I don't know. What do you think about that? Where it's like,
I think that's cool.
Seeing weird things happen. Again, we're not like so forthright about what is actually going on. The most insight he gets is when that guy says, tries to kill him basically. But even after that, he doesn't know that that's like what these people do.
But he knows that something's off now. If he got on the boat, it's abandoned for the most part. I think it's interesting that because that guy's by himself, I think. Maybe he's just eating in the dining room or something in a room by himself, which I just love how many places there are to hide on a super yacht. There's like infinite rooms if the doors are unlocked and he can just kind of hunker in.
And the gym has like mirror walls and stuff, and there's just dumbbells and everything. Like there's a good fight scene that could happen in there. I also like that this big fat guy's like, he talks to him very cryptically because he's just alone eating, and it's like, what is going on here? And he's just like, talking about vice, and he's like, when a man is given to vice, all there is left is the vice, and so you just see that he's eating. It's like, but if you go back and you listen to what he says after knowing that the world may be ended, it's like, oh, okay, that's what this guy decided to do. He's like, I want to go out eating, basically.
I want to name him. I kind of want to call him Baron Wesley or something like that. Baron just feels like
you just watched Dune. You're like this guy.
I just watched Dune, but like a Baron just kind of also fits with that like gluttonous kind of. It's like, oh, the Baron.
Oh yeah. I mean, he can be a prince. I think Prince.
Actually, he probably doesn't even need a name I guess they'll refer to him at some point. Like I was just thinking Wesley kind of sounds like a
Wesley's
Wesley
fine.
name too.
Yeah, I think Wesley's fine.
Baron Wesley, but he won't. Yeah, there's this dialogue. He gets in a skirmish with this guy. He's like trying to kill him, and Robin accidentally kills the Baron, and then he scrambles off. And maybe he has like some blood on his footprint or something, and he runs off. Because I think a servant would come to check on the Baron, and then he finds him and goes and tells the other rich people, and they're like, sounds like we have a stowaway on board. You know what this means, fellas? And they all kind of gear up. But then I think before it's revealed, in the in-between of he kills the guy and it's discovered he kills the guy, he does a little bit of spying. So they're not on full hunt mode, but he kind of sees like he's more hesitant to just approach people, and he says like, oh, they're doing weird stuff and I don't understand. That's kind of a little like Willem Dafoe's Inside, in the sense that he's trapped in this penthouse and he keeps discovering weird things about the penthouse. He discovers like a secret way the room works, a secret passageway, things like that. So I like that. And then he's very nervous. He doesn't really make sense of this doomsday cult stuff. I like the visual of some guy just like walking with something heavy and just jumping, plummeting 30 feet below into the water. That's just weird and bizarre and scary.
It has a little midsummer to it. A little midsummer, super bright visuals. And maybe it's a European thing. Maybe they're all like Swedish or something like that. And it's like, oh, we've been doing this cruise before the world even ended. We knew it was going to happen. And so we have everything we need and blah, blah, blah. Like this is civilization. You've made it back.
Yes.
I think that's an interesting thematic line of them saying this is civilized. And they're, violence has its place basically. And if violence isn't controlled, it's uncontrolled. So it needs to have an outlet, and human beings are violent. And so we brought on people that we can be violent too. That's basically
I like it.
The point.
I like it. I want to skip towards the end a little bit because I think we've done a great job like establishing this beginning. We established the inciting incident. He learns what this world is. And now a lot of the middle chunk is him versus the four other, the various guys, the various forces that be. He's trying to figure out more details of what happened. He's trying to avoid these guys and potentially stop them, fight them. and also getting hints from AI, trying to get into spaces that will help him. And
get back to the mainland, basically.
Yeah, get into spaces that, one, help him survive. Maybe he's trying to find weapons or how to control the ship. I think it'd be cool for him to outsmart the AI somehow, or loophole it a little bit in its logic so that it does something. But it's just a lot of that, and it's a lot of him picking off these guys, like what 1v1 fights of people. Like, they have different styles of weapons. It'd be cool if one guy just had like a javelin with blades on it. Like, he's like, I don't like using a gun. And he just like is like fighting him old school martial arts style.
That's cool. If we could rope a servant in, I do think that would be good. One that has been killed by him. And so they're like, I have to serve you now. There's a weird bylaw in our maritime law book or whatever. Of the super yacht.
Like, they each have their own individual servants. It's not shared servants. So if he's like, I that is really kind of weird and funny if the Baron's dead and maybe he doesn't, maybe the rich people discover that, or one of their servants discovers that. They are like, send a message to the Baron. But then one of the servants of the Baron finds Robin. He's like, my liege, basically. He's like, what are you talking? Get out of here. Get out of here. He's like, no, sir, I must serve you. You've bested my master in combat, so I must serve you. And then he has this weird guy who will do whatever he says, even though he doesn't want to. He's like, can you get me into the control room? He's like, alas, I cannot. I don't know why he's talking like that, but he has very limited function. He can only do...
I'm casting this guy in my mind, this servant, as Moises Arias. He's the kid from Fallout. He's one of the main characters from Fallout. He's like a shorter guy. He was in a bunch of kids shows, I think. Moises. But he has that kind of
servant guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he shows up and he's like, "Oh, you've killed the Baron?" And he's like, no, it was an accident. I didn't mean to. He came at me with a big knife. And he's just like, oh, no, don't worry. Like, I'm not going to rat you out or anything, man. Like, this guy was evil for sure. And so then we have a little bit of like a, what you call it? He can spy in between that. He can spy on the rich people, and then he gets found by the guy. The guy follows the footprints. I like the idea that he's with another group of rich people, the servant, and he sees the footprints, and you're like, oh, he's going to get caught. And he ends up like mopping up the footprints.
And the servant that's helping him.
Yeah. And he comes back and he's like, you've actually freed me. They had this whole thing where it's like, I have to serve him until he dies. And so now I'm free.
Does that apply for all of that guy's servants? Does he acquire more servants down the line?
Maybe he only had one. He kind of frittered away the rest of them, made them do dumb things.
I've got an idea. The one finds him, and then he's like, he cleans up after him and stuff, and eventually catches up to him and gives a little bit of this exposition. The rich people, when they discover that the Baron's dead, they say, well, let's not give him any help. And they just execute all of the Baron's servants at that point. Besides the one, because then I think that would make sense. Like, if that's their rules and they know the rules, they're like, whoever did this to him, all the servants belong to him now. And we can't have that. This guy could be a nobody. He doesn't deserve this. And they just execute. And then you have the one servant guy who catches up and he says, you get a little bit of exposition through him, which, if that's the case, maybe we can get rid of the AI. Like, the AI I'm trying to fit more and more, but maybe we don't need the AI. We could still
have it in some capacity. I don't think it necessarily needs to be like she can, give out information or whatever. But it's not like super important. I think if anything, she's just the mother of the ship and she's the one guy. She's the captain. Like, he gets there and he's like thinking he's going to meet a person, and it's really just been this thing the whole time. It could be in a sense the big bad, maybe, instead of an assistant to them. Maybe it's the thing that's told them, oh, the world has ended. And they're like, well, mother, that'd be cool if they call it mother. Yeah, they have a really structured, sophisticated system of like, hey, you kill this guy, you get his servants. I feel like that's probably like that. They knew this was going to happen. And so that's, I think the big question is, did the world actually end? And I think the actual ending of the movie is the ship running aground or like arriving somewhere. He imagines, he makes it happen, and then the world is completely normal. I'd like the line that the world is always ending.
I like that. The world is always ending. For that, like one of the rich people say that.
Yeah. Maybe the last one, the most sophisticated one or whatever. Kind of Snowpiercer. Making your way progressively through the ship. I like it's Snowpiercer at sea with Snowpiercer meets Castaway. I think that's actually really cool. So landing the ship, if you will, they get back and he realizes the world hasn't ended. But maybe the AI has tricked him, and it's alerted whatever company is a part of it. And so he gets captured by them at the end.
It's I'm not normally a fan of these like weird, like strange endings, but that's a very art house move, that you don't fully resolve things, that it's left open-ended, that it ends kind of sad. So I'm fine with that. I think we actually have most of our outline at this point for the story, which I really like. I think it's really interesting. I can
one other thing I want to add.
Yeah.
I think at the very beginning, we show kind of like a really quick version of him falling overboard and everything. But I like the idea that he works on a big shipping container boat, and in a storm, he gets swept over sea. And what ends up, the company that he worked for, the owner of that company is on the ship. So I think that's who he ends up really talking to. That's not the Baron or whatever, but I just imagine like the logo of that on all these shipping containers, and then you see it like embossed on the guy's robe.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, in a capacity that he has met him before, or more a capacity of this is a Jeff Bezos. Like, I know this guy is the head of the company I worked for.
And I think it's the Shakespearean rule of making the protagonist and antagonist more related. It makes the conflict even greater, that there's this idea that like, oh, he's the last employee that I ever had. And so maybe that's a reason why he spares his life, where he's like, oh, you're still employed by me. That's interesting. And I feel like that almost snaps a lot of the rest of it in place, where like if he does get caught, it's maybe the boat is only owned by this guy. And it's only him and his staff. And so he's been picked up, and it's like, oh, he's actually one of them. So then they try and incorporate him into the staff, and he doesn't know the rules. Like, he's struggling hardcore. He gets corporally punished, but he's like, just take me home. Just take me home. And he's trying to play these mind games, basically. But he's not brainwashed. I feel like that snaps into place a little bit. Again, more of a thematic rigidity that might be helpful for the audience. A little bit of a last minute change, but just as an alternative way to explore this prompt and everything.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I don't want to necessarily pull full 180 on that story at the very last second.
I think a lot of the beats
the hunt aspect.
Yeah, like he hunts people. You know what I mean? That all could still happen easily.
Yes, I do like the idea of this main guy that the company he worked for is the main guy and the owner of the boat. I think having a few other high-rich dudes, maybe his friends, maybe two more, threes just work well, so that you can have some mini bosses along the way before you get to the big boss. And I think there could be more. He's like, oh, let's be civilized about this. Like, you can if you worked for me, then like, I don't know. He, some reason, because he worked for him, he views him a bit more highly. He's like, you were after the grander vision of what we were all about, even if you were contributing in your small way. He's kind of being belittling,
and maybe even
but he also,
in a weird way, this is like the kind of ironic, sardonic, weird thing going on, where he agreed to the rules by signing on to be an employee. You know, you know what I mean? So maybe before he gets killed, that's what saves his life. Is this guy steps forward and he's like, oh, he sees the logo on like the loincloth basically that he's wearing, or the what's left of the jumpsuit, like the flap opens and it's got the logo of the company on the back.
yeah, or one of the rich people are like, hey, is this one of yours? And he's like, hey, did you? Yeah. I think the logo on some sort of jumpsuit that's torn up totally makes sense.
Yeah.
This gives him a little grace. And basically there's this opportunity. We get some exposition from that. And then there's this little opportunity of, well, you can join us. You can join the staff and join what we're doing here. Or you can be like the others that were on the boat and be the hunted, which if you're given that choice, you would just definitely be the staff, I think.
For sure, yeah.
So I think something motivates the hunting aspect, or he just runs away. He tries to escape from the boat, tries to get to the lifeboats, and then they're like, you've broken our rules, and then he's hunted at that point. And,
those aren't the lifeboats. Those are the death boats. And somebody takes a lifeboat and they're like, oh, look, they some other person who got hunted, they steal it or whatever, and then the lifeboat just blows up. Like, detonate death boat 4. It just blows up.
I like it.
Boat.
I'll do it.
That's the title, Death Boat.
I'm going to go through super fast, just like the highlights of this outline, because I think I like it. I like where it's landed. So we have this guy at the shipping container. Maybe we see him on the shipping container. Big storm. Robin, he blows out to sea. We kind of maybe even do like a 3 years later thing. He's full beard. He's getting off the island. We skip the whole Castaway movie. He's getting off. He sees the boat in the distance. He makes his way there. He climbs up. It's basically abandoned. It's very eerie. Why is there no one there? There's this weird AI. It talks to him cryptically, but he doesn't know anything. We maybe still have the Baron thing. Maybe he's the fourth rich friend or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, I didn't mean to. A servant kind of has its allegiance to him. He meets the guy who owns the boat, who was his old boss of the head of the company. It's like, oh, we're doing this thing, basically explaining the world ended. We hear the world ended. We can't go back. We're going to live out here. This is true civilization. And you can be part of it if you want to join us. And basically he buys in, but doesn't actually buy in and tries to escape when he can. They discover that. And they're like, all right, well, if you're not going to buy in, then you're no better than the animals. And the hunt begins. And they're hunting him on the ship. And all the meanwhile, he's running away. He's trying to get into places to get resources and stuff. He's trying to steer the boat home. He's trying to find communications of some sort. And he's having to fight the lesser bosses along the way.
Yeah.
At some point, he somehow gets the boat to head back to shore, just like, drive to shore. And while he's contending with these people, it's like hyper rich versus not hyper rich. They run aground. And I like the idea that I like the either idea of we don't really reveal if it's the end of the world or not, but I like the idea that he gets there and it's fine. Like there's people on the beach licking ice cream cones fine, like watching this giant boat run aground. And he's like, okay, there's nothing. Maybe there's one guy left. He's like, see, it's fine. Like the world's not ended. And the guy's just so consumed by this idea that he won't let it go.
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, they're going to know what you did here. It's like, I have others in my company that will come after you. So we end with him either being captured by them or he has to stay on the run. Like that's kind of ironic. It's that he started out as the animal on the island. He was the animal on the boat. And now he's the animal on land. Like people are still hunting him at the end of the movie. And he has to still be on the run. Although he is in civilization, so he might be able to get some help, but it ends on that note of he still has to run. Yeah, I like the film. It's very A24-esque.
I could see this very much. Again, you put Robin Williams in there, CGI him from Jumanji. Oh. I think he would do a great job. But yeah, I have a couple of titles in mind.
All right. Yeah, hit me with some titles.
So the one that is the strongest in my mind is Company Man.
Company Man?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole idea, again, is you just lean more in the idea, you lean harder into the Amazon-esque thing. And so you'd think is that he'd get a payout from the company. You know, there'd be some sort of legal settlement or whatever. And I think that happens pretty early on. Like he gets caught and that's the grace that saves him. Is the captain comes down and he's the CEO, right? And he's like, oh no, we have a company man. Like we have a blah, blah, blah. And maybe he worked for the company for several years, like for a good amount of time. And so that's not only the saving grace thing, but it's like the company you keep, the company of man, you know, that kind of companionship type theme, civilization, you know. And again, I think that title is aspirational in some ways. Like I think I would go back and iron it out and make it make a lot more sense. All the beats and all the moments and stuff, but what it means to then be folded into the company. And I don't know, maybe there's even like his legit boss, like his lower level boss that was there. Yeah. As a servant, as a foot washer.
Okay.
You know, I don't know, or as a chef or something. And he's like, yeah, I bought my ticket when I was still, you know, blah, 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 blah. You didn't know about this. That's the whole idea behind the company is that, and these rich people have no better use of their time other than to like make up games for themselves and make up, they live such lives of luxury that they make up like dangerous situations for themselves to be in. And so that's kind of what he's in. I could even see it being like he was never really in any danger. Like there was never really, he gets basically not that he was sleeping the whole time, but that it was like all staged in some way, which we've played with that idea before in a previous episode, The Shore. That like, again, it's everything has been perfectly crafted, even down to like his being on the island for 3 years. He's like, you know, you landed on a perfectly habited island, you know, and blah, blah, blah. It's been orchestrated this entire time. That's kind of scary.
Yeah. I think either way, whether the trauma of it is real, regardless of if it's real or fake. So the stakes are still there, and it's like almost, in some ways, almost worse if it's like, oh, well, we were just pretending. Like that's like almost so distorted, such a distorted view of reality that it's scary. And I like Company Man. When you first said it, I was thinking it almost has too much of an just purely action title, like the Running Man or the Gray Man.
Oh yeah.
But I think if you, especially in the trailer, explained like the rich guy's like, oh look, we have a company man, and it's really, you really lean into the cult like atmosphere of the menu of like, oh the company, this is the company ship, and you need to really lean into that, like in the trailer and the idea.
I think there's probably other titles that could be slightly better, but that and more dialed in, the more dialed in this idea, because it still is a little rough. Could be, you know, something like New Hire, something like that, where it's like, okay, you spent all of this time, you know, with the island story, not all of this time, but just enough time, basically, that you think it's going to be this type of movie, and then it switches. But I don't know. Like there's lots of other titles that you could go with about being on an island, like in the civilization, the animalistic themes, the rich poor themes, you know, that kind of thing.
The only other thing I'm trying to think of is my only hesitancy with Company Man is it's such a boat centered film, you know, and it feels like, do we need to have the title express something about the sea or the boat or something like that?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. There's certainly,
but I don't really have a good one right now. Like the name of the boat or something.
Yeah, the name of the boat would certainly be something, again, Snowpiercer type title. And the name of the boat would thematically encompass everything, you know.
The SS Enlightenment, the SS, something like that.
Something to that degree, for sure. And there are, again, there are a lot of other naval or you know, maritime terms. Even maritime works.
Yeah, I was going to say like the law of the sea or something like that. Something that implies like the rules have changed out here. I think that is kind of interesting. Ocean law or something like that.
Yeah, Stowaway is another one. Again, that's a really simple. He's not. That doesn't like fully encapsulate everything. Feels like Castaway, which is kind of cool. You know, I do like Maritime though, because it kind of sounds like merry time, and that's not. You know, that's not what it is at all. Obviously, it's the opposite of that.
I'm gonna look specifically Maritime. with the sea, especially in relation to seafaring, commercial or military activity bordering on the sea, living or found near or near the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could be good with that. Like, it is connected to the sea. I feel like maritime law feels like way on the nose.
Oh, I wouldn't say maritime law. Yeah. But maritime madness.
Maritime madness.
I think just maritime it's a word that you don't hear very often. And that you could hear that in the trailer too, where they're like, out here, there is no law.
Yeah, I think maritime works just because it's such a sea-centric story, and I think the company man would still be the company would be a big theme in the film.
Agreed.
But I think maritime feels like an appropriate title. I think we just need to wrap this up with an along the lines. And before we do that, I will tell our audience, if you listen to this and you like it, if you have more ideas for scenes and things like that, we have in the show notes ways to reach out to us, ways to go on social media, ways to find us on YouTube if you're not watching it there, and comment and check it out. And we love hearing from you guys. So share your thoughts or bonus scenes that you feel like could exist in this film.
Oh, your direction of what you wanted it to go, what you thought was going to happen, whatever it is, tell us, hey, that story sucked. I don't mind. I want to hear that. I think that's something as an aspiration for our show, is that we could have like prompts from the audience. That way.
We want to hear more voices and more ideas, and it can be wild. If you're a listener, you've heard some of the wild stuff we've come up with. So there's kind of no bad ideas to start with.
Yes.
And we can always form it into something else.
Agreed. We get all these ideas from listeners, and they all suck.
So we never use any of them. No.
Our inbox is full. My inbox is my junk mail, basically. That's how full of bad ideas it is.
You're really giving the wrong message after asking people.
I'm inspiring you to participate. We need an along the lines. Anything jump out at you? I think the company man line is pretty solid.
I like the company man. I like the AI talking about where is this destination going.
Oh, and the world is always ending.
Yeah. How would that be set up? I feel like Robin says something.
Yeah, that's a good question where, Robin straight up asks, oh, you have an idea?
I think, I feel like something about Robin saying like, well, how do you know? How do you know for sure? Like saying that in desperation. And then them just shrugging. And then they just say, well, the world is always ending.
Yeah, that, or like, I think he captures the CEO, or he's in the CEO's chambers, the captain's quarters, and he gets definitive evidence that there's life still on the world. Like there's some message or beacon or lights are on or something like that somewhere on some display or something. He sees it and he's like, I thought you said the world ended. He's like, listen, the world is always ending.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.